Yeah.
Main feature. Okay, I took some notes. John Strot is going to be our speaker. He works here at the library. He is a librarian. He's been here for 8 years and done a lot of referring. I guess that's referring, not refereeing. He has a couple of advanced degrees. He got his bachelor's in English. He has a master's in education and library science. So he's well educated. We'll understand a few things he said. And a lot of us here might be interested to know that before he worked here, he worked at the Waukegan Library.
Yay.
And John is going to present information about Hoopla, which is free from your local library. You need your membership number to get in. And John will tell you everything else about it. John Strot.
Basically, the service I'm going to talk about today is something called Hoopla. One of the things that we've been seeing in the public library is the transition from physical formats to essentially electronic formats. Like, for example, everyone's probably seen that big shift that's happened with music CDs. We're expecting that at some point we're going to see more and more of that happen with the physical DVD. There's all sorts of speculation that I've seen in terms of how long the DVD might stay around. Of course, no one knows. But essentially what I've been personally interested in was a public library offering a service like Netflix to the public. So the idea would be you would have your card that was issued from, in this case, your home library being Gray's Lake. You'd be able to sign into our website and then essentially get Netflix or a service like that brought to you when you're at home or on a tablet or basically through any type of internet-connected device. If you haven't used Netflix or a service like that, like Amazon Prime, the idea is you sign in to a particular website and then they'll allow you to stream, meaning watch on your device, a movie, a TV series, some type of video. So that's what we've been kind of excited about. I recently got a chance to go to a public library conference in Indianapolis in the spring, and the first booth that I went to, because they have lots of vendors that are there, was the Hoopla booth. And I was excited about it because essentially what I'll show you today is you take a valid Gray's Lake card. Once you register with them, which is a pretty short process, but once you register, a one-time thing, then you can sign into their site and you're able to see different TV series that are going to stream, meaning come over across the internet to your device and that you can watch. And you can see movies that way. This service is also starting to branch out into things like music. They've got somewhat of a nice music collection. So a new album comes out, they'll try and make it available to you electronically. Not everything, but again, some things. And to some extent, they're also going to do audiobooks in an electronic format. It's difficult for libraries, just like companies, because things are changing so quickly, so rapidly. There's not one specific standard. In my personal opinion, there's not a lot of vested interest in one company allowing another company to go ahead and define that standard and set things. So that's where we're seeing big fights between Google, between Amazon, between Apple and other main players, because no one really wants to have happen to them what happened with Borders, where you probably all remember Borders. They had the nice physical bookstores, the neat coffee shop, just kind of a real neat book culture. Their decision was, let's go with Amazon for an electronic bookstore. They'll be our bookstore front. Well, before long, Amazon kept just making phenomenal growth. Got hard for Borders with their physical locations. So that's been a big issue. The whole idea of e-readers, that's been a big fight. But at any rate, what I think you'll like today is I can demonstrate for you the Hoopla website, which is basically right now probably our main offering for any type of video streaming, and I think it's pretty slick. Were there any quick questions about that before we get started? Yeah.
Is it gonna be just streaming, or are you gonna be able to download this?
They're starting to do downloading. That's a newer process, and just kind of for those of you that are newer at this, when I mentioned streaming, essentially what that means is this website Hoopla is going to start to send in a digital format, for example, a movie to my PC. Once I sign in, they usually do a little bit of a buffer, meaning they'll send more of the movie than what I can watch at that moment. So in case there's a hiccup or a glitch or my machine has to re-request information, I don't see it doing that. I just see the movie playing. So basically it's kind of like they're sending me, if I'm watching at this moment in time, they've already sent me maybe 5 minutes worth. So that way I can keep watching. That would be streaming. The actual downloading would be, I want to go on a plane. I'm not going to have an internet connection. I'm going to go and get a full copy of that film or movie and have it on my device and then not have an internet connection. There are different complications with that, and they usually center around digital rights. And that's what all these big companies are fighting over. Adobe has been a really heavy player for the ebook area. A lot of times the services we use, regardless of whether it's 3M, My Media Mall, or a different service, is going to use Adobe's rights protection for that downloaded item in the background. So those are kind of the two distinctions. It's either coming more or less in real time across the internet, which would be the streaming, or it's been downloaded. I've got a physical copy, and at some point, companies get nervous about that because they want to protect their intellectual properties. Yeah?
Does that mean that if I download it to, say, my tablet or my laptop, whatever, does that mean that I have it there in perpetuity, or in 3 weeks does my subscription expire?
That's a great question. And the hard part is, all of this varies, almost on a case-by-case basis, but definitely on a company-by-company basis. For Hoopla, you're going to have a defined period at which that's no longer going to be available to you once you've downloaded something to your device. That's been the same thing with other companies that we use, other services, like My Media Mall is one. But even with that said, it varies so much. Like what I believe happens with a lot of the ebooks and e-audiobook technology, Stephen King is a good example where a service we use called My Media Mall typically has waiting lists for bestsellers and popular titles. Oddly enough, with Stephen King's titles, like for example for Salem's Lot, whenever I take a look for Salem's Lot, wow, copies available. Furthermore, I can even go and burn that to CD if I want. The agreement says within the 14-day period, which is how long I can check that item out for, at the end of the 14 days, wink, wink, I'm supposed to destroy these CDs.
But they
Yeah.
don't self-destruct.
So they won't. And so I think Stephen King talks to his attorneys, tells them, you know what, if somebody wants to listen to Salem's Lot every day on their way to work, you know what, officially they're not supposed to, let them knock themselves out. We don't think they're going to mass produce that and send it around to 10,000 friends on the internet. The digital stuff is what's different, because once that starts to get bootlegged, you'll see stuff put out on sites, and authors tend to really lose money over that, and companies lose control. But you'll see all sorts of variations on that theme. Stephen King has been really liberal with, I think, in my opinion, I think he's thinking, I've made my money, I want my stuff out there and available to the public. Other newer, up-and-coming authors like Stephanie Meyers with the Twilight series, there are always going to be holds on those items. You know, meaning you're going to have to go on a waiting list, and they put things in library jargon, even though there's no reason for a hold. You know, physically, when we have a set number of Twilight copies, meaning 10 copies, we put you on what we call a hold list, meaning a waiting list, a queue, so that way, wherever you are on the list, when you get to be 0, the item's in for you as the items get returned. If these companies can FTP, if they can transfer out 1 copy to one person, they could do 10,000 copies equally well. But it gets to be more of an issue of what the contracts are with authors and the amount of copies they're allowed to distribute at one time based on money that we give them. So, yeah.
In other words, when one uses their library card, they are not able to get videos from the library that you have in your stock. You still have to come here to get it.
That's a great point. And what I think is happening, what at least I'm seeing at this moment in time is, there's not like a single repository that you're going to go to that's going to have everything that was from U.S. film companies in terms of what's being made available to you. I mean, years ago when I worked at Waukegan, I thought at this point in time, you'd probably be able to take like your new Xbox and you would queue up, show me all the Charlton Heston films. You'd type that in, it'd do a lookup at like Internet Movie Database. It would show you all the films that he's been in based on that database, but it would hide that and make it look pretty so you wouldn't realize what it's doing. And then you would click on a certain film and it would go out and find that for you and say it's going to cost $2.99 or we found it free, etc. But it would be more complete. In my opinion, because these companies are fighting so much and they're worried because no one wants to be left out. I mean, we all remember when AOL was a dominant way to get on the internet. Things changed so quickly. You know, I remember for years Apple was looking at bankruptcy. You know, Microsoft was constantly being brought in for antitrust and monopoly practices. Things changed so fast that I think no company really wants to be in the position of being left out. So consequently, there's not like a single repository. And to your point, we have things that we buy physically here in the library that we're going to check out on DVD. It has absolutely no correlation to like what I'll show you at Hoopla. And these databases we subscribe to, a lot of times it's kind of a grab bag. What does My Media Mall offer? We might be able to tweak a few offerings, like a few bestsellers, and say, yeah, we've got to have Gone Girl, we want a copy of that. But for the most part, you buy in, like Netflix. If you use that, you subscribe to the Netflix service. The way to find out what's in their catalog is basically to search it, and that changes. As a kid, growing up, I liked a Buck Rogers TV show. Well, recently, for nostalgia, I went back and rewatched the 2 years worth of it. All of a sudden, it was in my queue. I even had a thumbnail where I'd stopped watching an episode. I went to watch it again, gone. I see a thumbnail of it, but it's no longer in the catalog. Their contracts come and go. I think Netflix realizes this. I've heard some interesting interviews where the reason Netflix is starting to do shows of their own, like Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, the American version with Kevin Spacey, is because they realize content is king. So HBO, when they've gone and made these quality shows over the years, HBO's said point blank, Netflix will never have The Sopranos, period. You know, our dominant shows, they're not going to get. Amazon Prime has Oz, a prison show that HBO did for many years ago. But there are all these sort of carved up niches. HBO's solution at this moment is you get an HBO Go Pass, meaning you pay them, then you go to their site and you can watch this stuff. But they're big, divided up territories, and that's one reason I think we're not seeing like a single place offer you carte blanche, bang, here's all the Charlton Heston films, that type of thing. So Netflix has its set of offerings which change and are in flux. Hoopla has its, contracts come, contracts go, stuff gets pulled, stuff gets added. Ideally Netflix or Hoopla, they would all like to offer more and more, but those content creators also realize, wow, you know, people want to see The Sopranos or whatever particular TV show you're interested in, you know, Parenthood or Scandal or whatever it is that you like. And so that's where it gets really, I'd say, difficult with contracts and why things are divided up. Yeah.
But as of the moment, if you go in with your library card, people is going to get you Netflix.
No, I'm just sorry, that's a great point to clarify. I'm just using this as an analogy because probably most people haven't heard of Hoopla unless you work in a library. I'm just mentioning Netflix or say Amazon Prime to give you an analogy of what it's like. Okay? So there's no direct correlation. There may be an overlap of some TV shows that are both in Hoopla and Netflix, but I'm just mentioning Netflix because like when we try and market this to the public, like we've got a big display up on our reference desk, we're trying to say something that people would say, no idea what Hoopla is, but I have heard of Netflix. Maybe I even subscribed to it or I've seen it at a friend's house. That's the reason I mentioned that. So that's what this service, it's extremely like that. It's pretty thumbnails. You'll see covers for the DVD or the old VHS case. You click on it, bang, it's going to appear basically in your browser window. You can have the browser buttons go away, you can have it go full screen. So that's what I mean with Netflix, and I should say Netflix-like.
That's what you're going to show us.
Yeah.
I went on Hoopla site, and they said that they did download for mobile devices. They didn't download for other devices, like your desktop PC or your...
They're attempting to, and again, all that's in flux, but yeah, they're starting to move over with the idea of not just streaming something, but send it over to whatever you're using, be it a PC, a Mac, my phone. Yeah. The snag that's coming up right now, that's what I asked him at the booth, and this is kind of an odd glitch, but this is why things are so in flux. Essentially what they've done is they've written things right now for something that's going to go and basically get their app. They're trying to nestle that into the TV sets. At the moment, they don't have that yet. So like the way it would work, if I want to watch Hoopla on an HD LCD at my house, I'd have to take like my smartphone that has that Hoopla app program software, and I would do like an HDMI video out into my TV, and then I would go and select my phone and I'd go to watch that. I'd say over the next, I don't know, 6 months, a year, I would imagine tops, they'll go ahead and have the capability to have you install their software directly into your TV. Right now they don't. Right now they're pushing it at like, say, a laptop market, a desktop, a smartphone, a tablet. That's what they're pushing heavily towards right now. We've also seen that in the library. There's been this crazy shift to just jump on the idea of the cloud or mobile devices with apps. So it'll make more sense, I think, when you see it. Basically, you're going to connect to the site and a movie's going to come over. Yeah.
Would this then become a replacement for having cable?
I wouldn't say a replacement at this time. I would think about all this stuff right now as supplements. Some people obviously are, cutting the cord. They're doing over-the-air HD broadcasts where they're getting stuff out of Chicago. They're getting stuff out of Milwaukee. There's going to be a more limited selection. The other issue that you're going to have right now with the Hoopla software is the way we've set it up. And one reason I wasn't certain that we would get this when I talked to them at PLA, the numbers I've heard are 99 cents is what the library pays per item to $1.99. So when you go, and I'm going to take out a movie today, when I check that movie out, I get it for 3 days. I can watch it as many times as I want in that 3-day period. However, the library is going to pay something in that window, okay? 99 cents up to $1.99. What we're doing is we're capping it. I believe I heard $3,000 cap per month. So for example, if we reach $3,000, meaning a bunch of people like it, everybody's taken out their up to 5 items, at that $3,000 cap, it's going to be unavailable until the next month. Libraries are all trying to figure out what's the best way to, use the tax dollars, what's the most responsible way. That's where we've set things at now. I think if we get a lot of interest, it's possible we could budget for more for the next fiscal year. Some libraries will do 7 checkouts per person per month. I've heard of up to 20. So it all just depends. And it also gets really complicated too in terms of how you look at those dollars spent, because I believe that the term is a first sale doctrine. What happened with physical items, when we go and we buy that new Stephen King Salem's Lot novel, we have the right to go catalog it, put it on the shelf. We can circulate that, check it out to you, the public, as many times as we want until that book comes back the 50th time and pages are starting to fall out and the glue in the spine is worn, and we decide, let's buy another copy. And maybe that copy we can circulate 75 times. What's different in the electronic environment, due to legal decisions, when I go and I buy an album or that Salem's Lot book, I can donate to my daughter when I die. It's my book. I can do what I want with it. When I go out to Apple's site and I buy things through iTunes and you see the big legalese, which very few people are going to actually sit down and read through all that, and even if you do, you probably need to be a specialized copyright attorney and probably some type of master's in IT, some type of background like that to understand the nuance. Basically what it's saying is I'm basically leasing or renting that. I've got the permission through Apple to listen to this, but I can't go and take my iTunes collection and then give that to my daughter at my death, okay? So those are some of the big differences in terms of that first sale doctrine. Those are big changes that have happened. So that also impacts the way that we can deal with like a digital song or a digital movie or a digital book. So that's kind of the background of this and sort of some of the framework. I've heard different ways that accountants look at pricing for libraries, but for example, when we buy that Salem's Lot novel from Stephen King, let's say I spend $15 when I order it from one of our vendors like Baker & Taylor or whoever it is. It gets here with a bunch of other books. We pay catalogers to go and catalog that, meaning they take records, they modify it, they put barcodes on the book, maybe they put some kind of plastic on it to protect it. They add it into our catalog so the public ideally can find it. That's what I look at all day is I check our catalog. Do we have this item? Do we have it? I look it up. All that takes time and money and resources to do. There are different figures for that, but let me just say $10 arbitrarily. So I've got a $15 book. It takes $10 to catalog it. We've got $25 in that book. We can check it out as much as we want. It's different in the electronic environment. So for example, with this movie, let's say we buy a version of Salem's Lot in terms of film. When it's digital, we check it out to you. With this model, with Hoopla, we pay them 99 cents or $1.99 per use, and then that's it. That's a done deal. There are different ways to look at it. What if that Salem's Lot novel that I ordered, I thought it would check out, it never goes out. So I've got, let's say, $25 in that book. Eventually I'm going to weed it if I see like 0 circs, meaning it hasn't checked out in a 5-year window. Okay, let's try and give that shelf space to other items. So in that case, worst case scenario, that was $25 gone. Never really did anything but take up shelf space and time for us to shelve it and house it. With the electronic environment, that wouldn't happen. With that said, you get into those trade-offs, how much are we going to pay then? In that case, with the Salem's Lot, I could, if I was only paying 99 cents to our vendor, in this case Hoopla, I could check that out 25 times and we would have been much better off. But there are just so many variables in terms of that, and we don't have to have the physical space. I don't know a perfect solution. I've just read about different models, and that's kind of where we are. But that's part of the difficulty, I'd say, with the electronic portion.
So are you implying that physical libraries will become smaller in the future?
I honestly don't know what'll happen. One thing I do think about, I was thinking about this morning on the ride in, I do think that our meeting room spaces are becoming more and more popular. There are different things where like people maybe will use a website to, I was listening last night to an interview where people in Chicago and larger cities are going, and maybe you're an electrical contractor and you go out to people's houses. Well, you go and do your job based on, like a lot of contractors I use. You've got a cell phone, I call them, they're at a job site, they'll get back with me when they can. But you still kind of need a physical place to meet. And ideally something that's kind of neutral, rather than going to somebody's house that you don't know. We have school teachers all the time that come in here with young children, and they'll use our meeting rooms to do tutoring. I mean, to me, that's a really cool, useful service of the library. It's a public meeting space. I think that's definitely just going to increase. In terms of the collections, I love speculating on it, but it's just so hard to say. I mean, right now what I'm seeing is things are staying fragmented. You're going to use Netflix for some things. You're going to use Hoopla for some things. You're going to physically take out DVDs from us. I think there's an increasing demand, and it's really too hard for any one library to try and offer. There's no way we're going to give you all the TV series that are out you'd be interested in. But another nice caveat while we're talking about this, You could always take your Grays Lake card, and you could take that and get it entered into a different library's catalog, like Fremont and Mundelein, Cook and Libertyville. You could go to the Round Lake Library, get your Grays Lake card scanned in there. There are a few things you'll have to show them. They'll call and verify that you're a patron in good standing. But the beauty of that is you're going to greatly increase like your access to film, TV series, books, magazines, because each library will have some overlap, but everybody's also going to buy into special niches. So, yeah.
Does this mean that if I go to Cook and I show them my Grays Lake Library card, I know in the old days when we were not electronic, we still had the cards that they banged, to check things out. I had a Cook card, but then when Grays Lake joined the 20th century, when it was nearly the 21st, I didn't have a Cook card anymore, and I know that, for instance, Cook has certain databases that we don't have. Does that mean I would be then able to have access to their databases?
Generally, the way it works, and it's always on a case-by-case basis with each library, but generally, the way libraries handle it is the way that we handle it. So if you come and you have a Cook-issued card, you can't remotely access our databases based on contracts. But if you physically come in the library, we'll give you access to any of our databases that are informational. Ones that you have to register for, like Hoopla, those would be the only restrictions, okay, where you wouldn't have access to those. So if you come in here and you want to use like a genealogy database we subscribe to, you can do that. You want to search consumer reports electronically, which we offer, you can do that. So those are all things that you can do, and that's generally what each library will do. I haven't sat in on these contracts, but what I've been told is when we go and Consumer Reports is a good example. We have a pristine set of that we keep at the reference desk. We also have a copy that we circulate to the public. I was helping a person this morning with that. We also have electronic access to that, like you could subscribe to on your own from home. But in this situation, if you have a Cook card, you're not going to be able to remotely access our Consumer Reports database. And the reason for that is when we sit down to negotiate with these vendors, the first thing they'll want to know is, what's the population size in Grays Lake? When we give them that number, whatever we tell them, 27,000, 32,000, when we give them that number, they go and calculate what's the maximum number of people that would feed off our database based on Grays Lake. So the reason we don't do the reciprocal borrowing, like if you're from Round Lake and you come over here, we'll physically check out material to you based on that for sale doctrine. We can do that. But when it's electronic, we would conceivably have to deal with the entire population of the state. It's not likely, but that's the way that the vendors would look at that. You guys would let anybody in Illinois come in and register their card, and we're like, yep. So given that, things get too cost prohibitive. So those are the only little nuances about restrictions, let's say, with that. Yeah.
So are you going to have to pay every time you get a movie, right, through Hoopla?
The library
like
will,
Netflix?
the Grays Lake cardholder will not.
Not?
Not.
Oh,
But
be
you get
free.
5 a month,
Yes,
which is
Mhm.
until they hit their cap for $3,000.
Yeah. exactly. That's well said. And the only reason I mention
Early in the
that,
month.
Okay.
one thing that we're seeing, and maybe some of you have done this, but if you get into a TV series, like you take out one of our TV series, whatever it is, Breaking Bad season 1, The Sopranos season 1, and you start watching the first episode. I'm usually sitting there with my wife, and I was like, it was okay. Let's try another one. Wow, we watched the second episode. It's pretty good. Well, you know what? It's 10 o'clock. Let's watch the third. Well, you can go and do that kind of binging idea where it's like, wow, we knocked out 5 episodes of this show, right? Because they're like 45 minutes, there's no commercials, we're just ripping through them. What you'll run into with a service like Hoopla is you could conceivably watch all of season 1, but you're going to be capped at, you get 5 episodes. So if you use Netflix, you know how easy it is. It'll start to show you 15 seconds, the next episode is coming. 10 seconds, you want to watch it, you're sitting there, yeah, why not? There's that limitation in place with Hoopla where you're only going to get a maximum of 5 movies at 2 hours or 5 TV shows at whatever it is, 45 minutes.
So be better, we have a big family and everybody has a car.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah,
Okay, you want to do your demo?
yeah, okay. So basically what you do is you go to our, so basically, whatever your browser is, it really doesn't matter. You go to our website here, and then we feature this fairly prominently down here at the bottom, Hoopla. This will tell you details about it. I've already signed up, so I'm just going to go directly there. Okay, it's a very short registration. So I'm here. This is what the site looks like. I'm going to tell it sign in. I'm going to select there, and I'm going to go ahead and just sign in. Give it a second. I'll just show you, I've kind of got this in a certain order for the demo. I pulled up a music album, which is to the left, okay, which is not going to require any type of plug-in. The actual movie is the only thing that will, again, do the digital rights issue. I'll show you that second. Just so you can hear this, I've already selected this. It's real simple. You click on the album cover, tell it play, or click on an individual track, and it's going to play a new music album. So give that a second, and that's what should happen.
Did you notice, he didn't point it out, but at the top it told him he had 3 tiles left on the last screen.
Yeah.
So it'll keep track for you. So if you get close, you know that.
Now, how do you find, you have that particular one selected, but where did you get your?
I can show you. I'm basically just going into stuff I pulled out. I was just trying to get the sound up here. Not sure what's up with that. It's playing here.
The sound before.
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, which we really have trouble with the sound there. Oh,
So, you know, whatever, we can take a look. Frank Sinatra, Bang Bang Bang, see what they have. One of the librarians I worked with is telling me that they've got, he's really into music. He was the guy I was thinking of with, I've been in his basement. He's got a whole history of albums from the 50s, 60s, 70s, really stopped around the 80s. That's something he could, you know, give to a family member, you know, on his death. Very different than the iTunes stuff. Maybe I've got all those albums electronically, but I've got a right to use them. I can't physically give them to anyone. At any rate, he was pretty impressed with their music selection here. And I think it's pretty nice. That's an example of the movie. Let me stop this one. And
But now, John, is it just limited to this computer? In other words, you said you could download it to your smartphone. Does that mean you would not then have the right to the same thing on your laptop or your desktop?
that's an excellent question. What they do is they limit things to one device at a time. Sometimes this will even mistakenly, I'm clicking too fast, I'll put on something at work, an album or whatever, and I'm going in and doing ordering. I'm ordering books. It gets confused based on the windows, and it thinks I'm trying to stream this album out to 2 places on my PC, and it'll complain and throw up a message. Only one device? Okay. Close out a window, restart it, everything's fine. So to answer your question, I could listen to this on my smartphone, I could listen to it on my PC at home, I could listen to it on my PC at the desk. I just can't do that all at the same time. And again, these companies get so worried about I'm trying to bootleg things, I'm trying to steal from them, or I'm trying to do some kind of copyright infringement. And they get really upset about that. So that's one reason that these guys fight so much. But at any rate, I just close this window, and then my sound should be gone, and we can move along. I'll just show this to you. It should complain about this plug-in, and I've left it like this because that way you'll at least see this one. I go and click on this film that I like by director David Lynch. I'm going to go and try and play it. It's going to complain, missing plug-in. This is the only thing I've seen go wrong. One reason I like Hoopla a lot is, I know you guys are computer people, but a lot of the people I deal with aren't. And so they just want stuff to work. You know, they don't want to, and that's what I like with Netflix. You don't need to know, oh, you know, it's using Microsoft Silverlight plugin in the background, and you have to worry about a particular version of it. You know, my daughter sits there, and wow, she's clicking on things, and she sees a picture of one of her, you know, favorite cartoons, you know, Casper the Friendly Ghost. She clicks on it, she sees little thumbnails of like different episodes, and I want that one, Daddy. She clicks on it, it works, you know, and like she's 5.5. So to me, that's nice.
That's
because-
impressive.
Well, you know, it's nice because, you know, I don't think in a lot of cases the general public, you know, needs to sit in on a workshop or class to use something. To me, they're going to use it if it's like, I don't know, I just sat down and it kind of made sense and I got my show. This is the one thing you'll do. It's real simple. Click on install plugin. Okay, it tells you about the wide line. Yeah. Install now. Tell it aloud. Probably maybe close my browser. Yeah, wants me to restart it.
Now, people can come to the library and use the library computers for their connection, right?
You could, great question. You
But,
could use it.
but each time you come, you have to download the plugin.
Well, you could use it for your connection. What you're going to run into on the public machines, we've got those restricted where you shouldn't. I've seen nuances. You shouldn't be able to install anything because we don't want people to add in anything to our boxes for security, for you and the next person. The thing to do would be bring in a tablet, a notebook of yours, a smartphone, then you can have at it. With our stuff, no, there are going to be restrictions. And also keep in mind, you've got to have a valid Grayslake card. So if you have a card from Cook or from the Waukegan Library, if people are going to offer streaming, this would be the dominant choice. It's a question of whether they've decided to put tax dollars to this or not. A lot of places are. I believe Cook is, different ones. I haven't checked Waukegan's site. I know Round Lake has chosen not to yet,
What about one?
but I believe Warren has, yeah.
Lake Villa?
I don't know with Lake Villa. I would check their site. But definitely this would be the thing to try. All it means is instead of like, if Lake Villa offers this, instead of going to our page, click through theirs.
So his,
yeah.
when you said, say you bring a tablet with you when you come, and you said have at it, what does that mean? Does that mean that you somehow connect your tablet to PC?
Meaning, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, by have at it, I mean, we're going to offer you, we've got fiber installed in the building, we've got access points around here, we've got one in the hall, we've got several by my reference desk in the ceiling behind our printer. You bring in your tablet, you connect with our wireless like you would at Burger King, like you would at a hotel. We're glad to show you. The access point is GAPLD. You go into your wireless properties. You typically, depending on the device, click on GAPLD as opposed to others you'll see. There's no password. You then start your browser. You'll see our legalese. You scroll to the bottom. You say that you accept. That actually allows you to have internet traffic. So you can go outside our router. You can come inside our router. That's going to establish your internet access. Then with your tablet or device, you go out to their site. You can watch your show. If it's something that you're able to download, that'd be another option. Maybe you decide, I'm going to download this and then keep my copy for whatever the lending period is. 3 days, 7 days, 14 days. 3 days for a movie or a TV show. 7 days for my album. And then 14 days for the e-audiobook, something that you'd listen to. Those are the offerings that they have right now. In this case, I pulled this up the other day. Here's an example of a movie, Mulholland Drive. We've got it physically in the library. Here we go. Let me just make that to full screen. So you can see that's pretty much like what you'd expect at a movie theater at your house. It's already written on the size of your display. I'll stop in just a second, but you get the gist, you know? So here's Mall and Drive. And I'll kind of conclude with, I'll just show you, like, to the point earlier, I'll show you a little bit about selecting and browsing these. I think what you're going to like is it's dirt simple. You don't need to remember anything I'm saying. You just look through the categories and find what you want, which I think to me is a good thing. So, anyway, there's the movie.
Now you can stop this and go to another device and.
Yeah,
bring
it'll
it back up.
resume the playback like some vendors, yeah. So I stop here, I go to the reference desk, wow, when I finish watching that film on my smartphone, I can do that. Same thing, my wife's got a subscription to Amazon Prime. I've gotten in the habit at night, you know, we just moved to a new house rather than, we don't have a TV in the bedroom. I kind of use that to go to sleep. Start on her tablet, watch a show, watch whatever, 15 minutes, I'm about done, fall asleep, stop it, next night, pick up right where I left off, so it's nice for TV series. What I wanted to show you under that My Titles area, as it was pointed out earlier, you're going to see borrowed. I've checked out 2. I didn't want to go to my 5 cap because in case there were questions, I wanted to have a few that I could show you guys. I made sure everything that I did check out was going to be within that window, so when I do the presentation, wow, I'm not maxed out, I can't get anything to show you, and the stuff I have checked out has expired. So in this case, I can look at the My Titles. If I want to browse, it's going to be real simple for you. I click on that, I'm patient, just trying to get some info for me. You can see it's all these pretty thumbnails. So you really don't have to remember anything from what I've said. All you have to do is look through there. People may complain about this in terms of the way they show it to you. Like our catalog is real text-based. If you use it a lot, I tend to like it just because I know the exact title I'm looking for. If I don't, I'm going to go to a place like Amazon, I'm going to get the exact title, and I'm going to copy and paste that into our catalog. With that said, the visual part is nice. It's going to take longer to search, but it's going to be a lot friendlier because you can literally scroll through here, look at their categories, top titles, just added titles, stuff from 50 years ago is going to be in just added. Genres, we can look at that, back to school, film festival winners, whatever their different categories are, recently released, featured dramas, their comedies are here, action and adventure, award winners and nominees, family films. So this is where I take like my daughter. If I wanted her to watch something, whatever, during the day, at night, I'd let her just click through here. It's that simple. Click on that bar, it's going to scroll through. You know,
Or you could type.
I believe you can up in here, where I just click. Well, that's all right. It's kind of hard to see. That's part of the tough thing, you know, the white on black.
Right.
But again, I think their strength probably isn't so much in the search like our catalog, but it's going to be in just scroll through. Oh wow, you know, here's When Harry Met Sally. That'd be fun to watch. You know, click on the title, bang, it's going to come across the internet to you. I'll just do one quick one and then we'll call it. We'll go back and get one that she'd like. Let me go to 5. Click on it, be patient, we'll give it a second, gives me details. Want to borrow it? Yep.
There's no feature like to preview something for a few minutes before you decide you're going to use up one of your
No,
5.
yeah, it's kind of a one and done. But with that said, they're changing things constantly. They're getting feedback from people. I would imagine they implement some of these things. You know?
Did you just use up one of your 5?
Yeah. So yeah, well yeah, you can knock those out fast. You can see where people will like this. I think the downside, probably for people with Hoopla, which is a nice downside. Yeah, they're going to say, "Boy, I really like the service. I want more." You know, and then that'd be something where I think if we hear enough in terms of response, we'd rebudget. You know, yeah.
Is that something? Is Hoopla something that's only for libraries, or can somebody get an individual subscription to?
To the best of my knowledge, it's only going to be a group subscription. I don't think that as an individual you can do that, but again, what they're targeting is the company I use, Midwest Tapes. It's traditional for libraries to use them, Baker and Taylor. We go through certain vendors we get shipments in all day and acquisitions at the back where I work. Big boxes come in and here 20 DVDs, here 40 books. These guys were a big player all the time. They were vendors for libraries. And they started to realize, like, I'm typical, I'm wanting some kind of offering for the public where I'm constantly buying DVDs for you, feature films, documentaries, but I also wanted to be able to offer you something streaming. You know, it's a snowy day, it's December, you can't get to the library, or we're closed. Wow, it's 7 o'clock at night, you'd like to watch a film, and we want to be important. So we want you to use the library even when you physically can't get here. This is probably one of the best solutions I've seen so far.
You have a graying population.
What's that?
You have a graying
Sure, yeah.
population.
It's harder to get here, time's precious. I mean, you know, you've only got so many errands you can do in a day. Maybe you can't get by here, you know, you're busy. So anyway, you kind of see this would be something my daughter would like, and bang, 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 whatever. Anyway, I'll finish it up there unless there are any other questions.
So even when you come here to download it, you're still using your own account, so the 5
You're
is
gonna,
still.
yeah, the key is gonna be 5, and you're gonna have to have a valid Grays Lake card. If you don't have a valid Grays Lake card, meaning one we've issued, check at your home library and see what they offer. This is something that if they haven't offered it, they've considered it. So just kind of keep that in mind. More of these type things are gonna happen. I think they're gonna be a big player. Their big deal, in my opinion, is gonna be, can they keep growing the collection? I thought Netflix would be a lot bigger than what it is now. I thought Hulu, I thought Amazon Prime, but people haven't been real successful in gobbling up content because, you know, HBO is a good example of, they're worried. Why do we want to give Netflix everything in our collection when we think we can be more profitable, we can bring more people to our site by keeping it ourselves, you know? They don't have a vested interest in letting everybody that has a subscription stream like Game of Thrones, for example. They'll still go with that model of they'll let a specific individual buy something through Amazon where you get a copy just for you at your house and you're paying like $1.99 per episode. Not cheap. They're still letting people do that. And Apple's still able to sell something, but not stream it, meaning stream it to whoever subscribes to their service. You're able to buy it, and then, I don't know the contracts, but I'm sure HBO is taking a huge cut to where it's, yeah, they're content with you buying individual episodes of Game of Thrones. But streaming it, no. Yeah.
Are there other similar competing services to Hoopla, or is this unique at the moment?
It's, to me, pretty unique for public libraries. I keep talking about the commercial ones to individuals like, you know, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Those are the 3 big ones that come to mind for if you're an individual. For groups and libraries, this is pretty much it. I was kind of hopeful that like ALA, the American Library Association, would talk to all the public libraries in the U.S., which pretty much every public library is going to acknowledge as sort of the leader or, you know, organizational go-to group or organizational leader. Have them contract on behalf of public libraries, academic libraries. Let's offer this to people. But right now, this has been something that Midwest Cape kind of came up with, and it's probably the biggest player out there. Others?
Were you saying that most of the libraries are going to go for that?
I don't know right now. That's a good question. A lot are, just because it's pretty much the big player in town, the only player. So if public libraries say we want to offer some type of video streaming to the public that's easy and works, Hoopla is a big one to go to. I don't even know any real competitors.
I might be able to go to my other library
Yeah.
and try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you know what, even stop by the reference desk when you get done. We've got a big Hoopla display. We can talk about it more. I'm glad to take a look at your home library. We can take a look. It's easy enough for me to go out to wherever, Lake Villa site, Round Lake site, Cook site, and just see what are their electronic offerings. So we can tell you pretty much right away whether they've got it or not for you. Yeah.
I've used interlibrary loan to get hard copies of things. Can you conceive of, at some point, there will be a digital version of interlibrary loan that you won't have to go through all the mess of requesting something from E&G, they don't have it at this library, so let's try the Chicago Public Library, well, let's try the State Library, let's try the Michigan Library, whoops, now we're at the Library of Congress. Can you conceive that this could be eventually done electronically?
I think all of it can be done now. I think the big problem, the big hang-up, in my opinion, with all this stuff right now is digital rights. There are different services like Ariel that universities use where they can go and get articles for you very quickly through that interlibrary loan process. I can see all of this happening. It's just, to me, the big holdup is, again, these companies are all fighting. I mean, everybody's fighting heavily to make sure they're not left out because, 5 years in tech time is like what? I don't know, 20 years for us, I mean, it's huge. And so these companies are all real worried about that. And so people dig in their heels and they are real hesitant to have some kind of standard that all digital rights will be managed by. Whose standards it going to be? What's it going to be based on? Because it's going to be probably based on some proprietary technology. Like Adobe's got really solid stuff to keep ebook content safe. 3M uses it, which is a service that we use. My Media Mall, a service that we use, uses it. But it's one of those things that, wow, well, what happens? Adobe's not going to give that away and just say, here's this great technology we're making money off of right now. Let's, for the public good, just donate that and let everyone use it and write to it. Like I was talking to our IT manager, I believe the Adobe PDF format recently came out of their patents. And so in the last couple of years, we saw all sorts of PDF creator software come out. Everybody lets you do it now. We're used to, that was a big deal. When I worked in Waukegan, if you wanted a tax form, you're going to get it in a PDF format. It's slick, it works well, but you get Adobe Acrobat Reader. That's how you read this stuff, But I certainly couldn't go into Microsoft Word and create this Adobe PDF unless Microsoft, contracts with Adobe for the software to nestle into Word. What's Adobe's interest in giving this stuff up and making it available and easy to the public? In my opinion, they kind of fight it out. They want to be important. They want to be a player. They've got great technology. They're gonna fight it out with people. So I think they could do it. It's just contracts and do what they want to do.
Well, if somebody's spending the time and effort to create something, they expect to be compensated,
Sure.
which isn't
Well, yeah.
unreasonable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, John, thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot.
Appreciate your presentation and your being here as a reference librarian.
Yeah. We'll be out at the desk and stop by and see our Hoopla demo.
Yeah.
How long have we had this service?
Oh boy, I don't know the exact date, but I would say we've gone live for several months now. It's kind of been a soft opening for different
You didn't
reasons.
announce it to anybody, did you?
We have, but we haven't pushed it super heavily for different reasons. One is we wanted to get a feel for, we had no idea, like, are we going to hit that $3,000 cap like this and then do a lot of PR and say, watch this movie, and then, you go home and, well, I just got my brochure, and you can't watch it. It says we've already hit the cap. I mean, sometimes that happens with popular programs, where, wow, we can only have slots for 10 people, and within the morning that the newsletter comes out, all the slots are taken. So then we deal with, we've got 300 people that are upset because they've called the next day, and it's already filled. So, it's kind of trade-off, but we're trying sort of a slow build, and hopefully it'll be popular.
Can you stick around for a minute, John?
Yeah.
And anybody who has more questions, be sure to check in with John now or later on at the reference desk.
Good.